it's all of it is there to teach us something grand and something delightful, and that helps us move to higher and more spiritual places. So the way that you eliminate adversity is literally to be thankful for it and to say thank you for everything that is showing up in my life. It is going to teach me something profound. And some of the most difficult and very troublesome kinds of things that have occurred to me in my life, what I thought were at the time, have taught me how to be a better writer, a better speaker, a kinder person, a better human being. Because true nobility, it's not about being better than other people. It's about being better than you used to be. And the way that you get better at being than you used to be is by having these challenges show up and then transcending them and overcoming them. I don't look back on my days of drinking, which stopped 17 years ago, as anything other than great and wonderful events that helped me. All of that drinking and all of the behavior and the drugs that I did and all of those kinds of things have helped me to become a stronger, more purified, more decent, better human being, better husband, better father, better speaker, better man as a person. Anyway, let me try to get through the rest of these. We just have a few moments left.
Okay.
Were you going to say something, Diane?
Well, I was going to say, do you think people get caught up in the why me kind of mentality?
Yeah, I think they do. Instead of saying, why not me? So thank you. Thank you for all of it, every single bit of it. I mean, there's a slogan here on Maui that says, no rain, no rainbows. So I always remind people of that whenever there's a rainy day and the tourists are all here and they're all upset about the rain. I say, but you see all those rainbows that you just love every day? They have rainbows over here on the island. You can't have them without the rain. And I think it's a good symbol for our lives. One of the things that Gandhi said that's really, I think, very important is that there's more to life than making things go faster and making it always increase our speed. That the idea that we have to get there fast, we have to be ahead of the other person, slowing ourselves down. In the 26th verse of the Tao that I was writing about this morning, it talks about the stillness, about being able to that stillness is the mother of unrest. In other words, the master of unrest. In other words, in order to be able to get to a place where you are no longer filled with unrest, you have to go to this place of stillness, this place of quiet, this place of peace that is within each and every one of us. And that means not telling yourself that you have to be there ahead of the other guy, not rushing through the traffic lights, but meditating your way through when a yellow light comes, instead of rushing through it, that's just a habit. Instead of that, just slowing down, putting your foot on the brake and saying, thank you for 1 minute to just sit here and be at peace and be kind and be in a sense of harmony with my source, which is always at peace. Also, I said, do everything that you can to eliminate debt in your life, because all of the debt that you have, the credit card debt, the money that you owe the banks, the mortgages, all of those kinds of things are a way of giving up control of your life and putting it into the hands of someone who will be controlling the purse strings of your life. And also to let go of your idea about everything is evaluated on the basis of how much it costs or how much it's worth. Try to take the dollar value off of things and just enjoy everything in your life for what it is.
I'm going through something right now, and I'm kind of wanting to know why all this is happening to me in my life. At 15, my dad died unexpectedly of, an aortic aneurysm, and then I dealt with that somewhat decent. I don't want to say great, but I was only 15. And then I got married, and my husband and I struggled for 4.5 years to get pregnant, with one miscarriage along the way. And we got pregnant in November last year. We found out December 8th. And then on April 4th, we found out that the baby was really sick. Mm-hmm. And I ended up delivering a stillborn on April 19th. Mm-hmm. And I'm just not quite sure why all this is happening and how to get through it.
Yeah, I can hear your pain. First of all, as you move along this path that I'm writing about, especially in inspiration, you find out that all of the greatest teachers who've ever walked among us, including Jesus, all of them, have taught us that death is not a punishment, that it is the inevitability of all things, that everything that composes decomposes. And the question isn't whether it's going to decompose. The question that we have as human beings is, how long is it going to take? How much time do we get? When you say the words, my father died unexpectedly, my immediate response to that is unexpected to you.
Yeah.
But not to God, and not, and that the moment that your father was conceived and the moment that he showed up on this planet, his birth was here, independent of his opinion about it, and so was his death. And the same is true of the miscarriages that you've had and the stillbirths that you've had. That there's a perfection in all of this, and that these souls who showed up very, very temporarily, and then for whatever reason that none of us will ever be privy to, weren't ready to show up into this world. What you are doing with it is you're taking it personally. You're saying to yourself, why me, and how could something so terrible as this happen, and how much of this kind of thing do I have to put up with before I'll have peace in my life? And I'm saying to you, have peace in your life now, and even be in a state of gratitude for just the fact that you've been able to participate in the dance of life. You've already created life twice, and because it didn't last as long as you thought it should last, that's just our ego at work.
Living in the flow. The Tao and water are synonymous, according to the teachings of Lao Tzu. You are water. Water is you. Think about the first 9 months of your life after conception. You lived in and were nourished by amniotic fluid, which is truly unconditional love flowing into you, flowing as you. You are now 75% water, and your brain is 85% water, and the rest is simply muscled water. Think about the mysterious, magical nature of this liquid energy that we take for granted. Try to squeeze it, and it eludes us. Relax our hands into it, and we experience it readily. If it stays stationary, it will become stagnant. If it's allowed to flow, it will stay pure. It does not seek the high spots to be above it all, but settles for the lowest places. It gathers into rivers, lakes, and streams, courses to the sea, and then evaporates to fall again as rain. It maps out nothing, and it plays no favorites. It doesn't intend to provide sustenance to the animals and plants. It has no plans to irrigate the fields, to slake our thirst, or to provide the opportunity to swim, sail, ski, and scuba dive. These are some of the benefits that come naturally from water simply doing what it does and being what it is. The Tao asks you to clearly see the parallels between you and this naturally flowing substance that allows life to sustain itself. Live as water lives, since you are water. Become as contented as is the fluid that animates and supports you. Let your thoughts and behaviors move smoothly in accordance with the nature of all things. It's natural for you to be gentle, to allow others to be free to go where they're inclined to go, and to be as they need to be without interference from you. It is natural to trust in the eternal flow, to be true to your inner inclinations and stick to your words. It's natural to treat everyone as an equal. All of these lessons can be derived by observing how water, which sustains all life, behaves. It simply moves, and the benefits it provides occur from it being what it is, in harmony with the present moment and knowing the truth of precisely how to behave. What follows is what Lao Tzu might say to you based upon his writing of the 8th verse of the Tao Te Ching. First, when you're free to flow as water, you're free to communicate naturally. Information is exchanged and knowledge advances in a way that benefits everyone. Be careful not to assign yourself a place of importance above anyone else. Be receptive to everyone, particularly those who may not routinely receive respect, such as the uneducated or the homeless or troubled members of our society. Go to the low places loathed by all men, and have an open mind when you're there. Look for the Tao in everyone you encounter, and make a special effort to have acceptance, gentleness, and kindness course through you to others. By not being irritating, you'll be received with respect. By making every effort to avoid controlling the lives of others, you'll be in peaceful harmony with the natural order of the Tao. This is the way you nourish others without trying. Be like water, which creates opportunities for swimming and fishing and surfing and drinking and wading and sprinkling and floating and an endless list of benefits by not trying to do anything other than simply flow. And secondly, let your thoughts float freely. Forget about fighting life or trying to be something else. Rather, allow yourself to be like the material compound that comprises every aspect of your physical being. In the Hidden Messages of Water, Masaru Emoto explains that we are water, and water wants to be free. The author has thoroughly explored the ways in which this compound reacts, noting that by respecting and loving it, we can literally change its crystallization process. If kept in a container with the words love or thank you or you're beautiful imprinted on it, water becomes beautifully radiant crystals. Yet if the words on the container are you fool, Satan, or I will kill you, The crystals break apart, are distorted, and seem confused. The implications of Emoto's work are stupendous. Since our consciousness is located within us, and we're essentially water, then if we're out of balance in our intentions, it's within the realm of possibility that our intentions can impact the entire planet and beyond in a destructive way. As our Creator, the eternal Tao, might put it, water of life am I, poured forth for thirsty men. Do the Tao now. Drink water silently today, while reminding yourself with each sip to nourish others in the same life-flourishing ways that streams give to the animals and rain delivers to the plants. Note how many places water is there for you, serving you by flowing naturally. Say a prayer of gratitude for this life-sustaining, always-flowing substance.
Here's a quote from Marcus Aurelius, the famous Roman emperor. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Take care that you entertain no notions unsuitable to virtue and reasonable nature. And here's Mother Teresa. God does not command that we do great things, only little things with great love. There are no justified resentments. You hear people say this all the time. I have a right to be upset because of the way I've been treated. I have a right to be angry, hurt, depressed, sad, and resentful. Learning to avoid this kind of thinking is one of my top 10 secrets for living a life of inner peace, success, and happiness. Anytime you're filled with resentment, you're turning the controls of your emotional life over to others to manipulate. I became aware of how powerful this lesson was many years ago while sitting in on a meeting of 12 people who were in a recovery group for alcoholism and drug addiction. All 12 of those people were accustomed to blaming others for their weaknesses, using almost any excuse as a rationale for returning to their self-defeating ways. On a poster hanging in the room were these words, "In this group, there are no justified resentments." Regardless of what anyone would say to another group member, no matter how confrontational or ugly the accusations, each person was reminded that there are no justified resentments. You may need to consider whom you resent before you make your own choice about whether this is useful for you. Resentments give you an excuse to return to your old ways. This is what got you there in the first place. Why resentments are there? You may be familiar with a popular television show called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? If the contestant answers 15 multiple-choice questions, he or she wins $1 million. Starting with a $100 question, the person in the hot seat answers 5 questions until reaching the $1,000 level. At this point, the person is guaranteed to leave with something. Then the questions increase in difficulty. If the contestant reaches $32,000, again there's a guarantee of leaving with that amount. So there are 2 crucial levels to attain. The $1,000 level, which is achieved by answering 5 relatively simple questions, and the $32,000 level, which involves 5 increasingly difficult questions. I've just related details about this TV program to present the idea of the 2 levels that you must achieve in order to have a chance at the highest $1 million level of awareness. The $1,000 level is one in which you can learn to leave blame behind in your life. If you don't do so, you're going to go home with nothing. Removing blame means never assigning responsibility to anyone for what you're experiencing. It means that you're willing to say, I may not understand why I feel this way, why I have this illness, why I have been victimized, or why I had this accident, but I am willing to say without any guilt or resentment that I own it, I live with it, and I am responsible for having it in my life. Why do this? If you take responsibility for having it, then at least you have a chance to also take responsibility for removing it or learning from it. If you're in some small way, perhaps unknown, responsible for that migraine headache or that depressed feeling, then you can go to work to remove it or discover what its message is for you. If, on the other hand, someone or something else is responsible in your mind, then of course you'll have to wait until they change for you to get better, and that is unlikely to occur. So at the $1,000 level, blame has to go. Otherwise, you go home with nothing and are unable to participate at the higher levels. You must be willing to pass a new test at the second critical level, the $32,000 question, which is the final obstacle you must face in order to move into the more exalted realm of self-actualization and higher consciousness, the $1 million spiritual level, if you will. At this level, you must be willing to send the higher, faster energies of love, peace, joy, forgiveness, and kindness as your response to whatever comes your way. This is the start of the uncrowded extra mile, where you have only one love to give away. Someone says something to you that you find offensive, and rather than opting for resentment, You are able to depersonalize what you've just heard and respond with kindness. You would rather be right than kind. You have no need to make others wrong or to retaliate when you've been wronged. You do this for yourself. There's a Chinese proverb, if you're going to pursue revenge, you'd better dig 2 graves. Your resentments will destroy you. They are low energies. And along the extra mile, you'll only meet others who have fully grasped this concept. The ones who haven't made it to this level are all back with the crowd who went out of the game long ago on an easier question, and most are still back there wondering why they keep going home with nothing. But I can assure you that they continue to blame others for their emptiness. First, you have to get past blame. Then you have to learn to send love to all rather than anger and resentment. The story is told of the enlightened master who always responded to outbursts of criticism, judgment, and ridicule with love, kindness, and peace. One of his devotees asked him how he could possibly be so kind and peaceful in the face of such disparaging invective. His response to the devotee was this question: if someone offers you a gift, and you do not accept that gift, to whom does the gift belong? The answer leads us to the extra mile. Ask yourself, why would I allow something that belongs to someone else to be a source of my resentment? As the title of a popular book says, what you think of me is none of my business. My teacher, Abraham Maslow, used to say that to become independent of the good opinion of other people is among the highest qualities of people who reach these levels of higher consciousness, or what we're talking about, the meaning phase of our life, or the afternoon of our life. And most of us get so consumed with what other people think of us. And when Buddha offered that quote, when his devotee said, how can you be so calm in the face of all that criticism? His answer was that question, which was, if someone offers you a gift and you don't accept that gift, to whom does the gift belong? And they all thought about it and then realized that when someone offers you a gift of their opinion, no matter what it is, if you don't accept it, then it doesn't belong to you. And why in the world would you ever be upset about something that belongs to someone else? It's theirs, it's not yours. And that's something that each and every one of us can cultivate. And, it goes way beyond just that great spiritual story. It goes into when we put our focus on how much money am I making, or how much prestige do I have, or did I get that promotion, or did I win the game? All of that is really about being dependent upon the good opinion of other people. You ever watch television and see when the football game is on and the cameras pan the crowd and everybody's number one, and I think, only one person can be number one. Only one. But there's all of us out there. So even in a competitive tennis match or whatever it might be that you're doing, there's still the place within you where you can allow other people's opinions to be just what they are and to just enjoy every single moment of it. Just recently, in an Olympic match, there was a high hurdler who was running for the gold medal. And when she got to the 9th hurdle, there's 10 hurdles, when she got to the 9th hurdle, she said in her interview afterwards, I already saw the gold medal around my neck. And as soon as she took her focus off of what she was there to do and onto the outcome, or what other people were going to think of her and what it was going to be like to stand on the podium, she hit the hurdle. And she hadn't hit a hurdle in years. If we stay on purpose, on process, rather than on what people think and what the outcome is going to be, nothing can stop us. Nothing. Carl Jung once said that at the same moment that you're a protagonist in your own life and you're making choices, at the very same moment you're also the spear carrier or the extra in a much larger drama. We are making choices, he said, but we are all doomed to make choices, which is a paradox. We're doomed, that is, it's all set up for us, and we're also making choices. And if you want to get to the highest place in the Bhagavad Gita, the great ancient spiritual text of the Hindu faith, the Bhagavad Gita teaches us, that means Song of the Lord. It teaches us that you have to learn to blend the two opposites and live with two opposite ideas at the same time. I am a choice maker, I am out there, I have a free will, and at the same time, I am being lived by the Tao. And both of those, while they may contradict each other, it's the way of life, because what doesn't contradict? Think about who you are. Think about who you are right now listening to this.
Who you are is this thing that's in physical form. It has a beginning, it has an end, it has substance to it. You can touch it, you can feel it, you get a hold of it. And also who you are is totally and completely invisible. That part of you which is listening to this and processing this and thinking about it and wondering about it is invisible. It has no form. You are form and formless all at the same moment. If I want to just wiggle my finger, it's an amazing thing to be able to just take this finger and wiggle it, because here's the finger and I wiggle it. What makes it wiggle it? You know, you can go inside of my brain and you can find, you know, that which allows it to happen, but you can never find the interior, the invisibleness within each and every one of us that just says, I'm going to wiggle my finger. That's just a thought. It's invisible. You can't get a hold of that. You can't grab that thought. So I am that, and I am also the finger that is wiggling. I'm both. And that paradox is something we all have to learn to live with and stop fighting it. It's just in the way of things.
It's all unfolding in divine order. By now you should be affirming that everyone you need for this journey of yours will show up, and that they'll be perfect in every way for whatever needs you have at this time. Furthermore, they'll arrive at precisely the right moment. In this play called your life, it has all been perfect. Your ex-spouse showed up at just the right time when you needed to create those children you love so much. The father who walked out on you so that you could learn self-reliance left right on time. The lover who abandoned you was a part of this perfection. The good times, the struggles, the tears, the abuse, all of it involved people coming into your life and then leaving. And all of your tears will not and cannot wash out one word of it. This is your past. And whatever your energy level at that time, whatever your needs, whatever your station in life, you attracted the right people and events to you. You may feel that they didn't show up when you needed them, that in fact you were alone and no one showed up at all. But I urge you to see it from the perspective of all of life being in divine order. If no one showed up, it was because you needed to handle something on your own and therefore attracted no one to fulfill your energy level at that time. Viewing the past as a play in which all characters and all entrances and all exits were scripted by your source and was what you attracted at the time frees you from the very low energies of guilt, regret, and often revenge. As a result, you'll go from being an actor who's influenced by others playing the roles of producer and director to being the writer, producer, director, and star of your own glorious life. You'll also be the casting director who possesses the ability to audition anyone you choose. Base your choices on taking the path of no resistance and staying harmonized with the ultimate producer of this entire drama, the universal, all-creating mind of intention. You must be what it is that you are seeking. This is a universe of attraction and energy. You can't have a desire to attract a mate who's confident, generous, non-judgmental, and gentle and expect that desire to be manifested if you're thinking and acting in non-confident, selfish, judgmental, or arrogant ways. The right people will show up precisely when you need them and when you're able to match up. You must be that which you desire. When you are what you desire, you attract it by radiating it outward. You have this ability to match up with the power of intention and fulfill your intention to attract ideal people and divine relationships. Love can only be attracted by and returned by love. The best advice I can give for attracting and maintaining spiritual partnerships, as is emphasized here, is to be what it is that you're seeking. Most relationships that fail to sustain themselves are based on one or both of the partners feeling as if their freedom has been compromised in some way. Spiritual partnerships, on the other hand, are never about making another person feel inferior or ignored in any way. The term spiritual partnership simply means that the energy that holds the two of you together is in close harmony with the source energy of intention that I've described earlier. You've already connected to those you want in your life, so act like it. Mystically speaking, there's no difference between you and another person. A weird concept, perhaps, but nevertheless valid. This explains why you can't hurt another person without hurting yourself, nor can you help another person without helping yourself. You share the same source energy with everyone, and consequently you must begin to think and act in a way that reflects your awareness of this principle. When you feel the need to have the right person show up, begin to change your inner dialogue to reflect this awareness. Rather than saying, I wish this person would show up because I need to get out of this rut, activate a thought instead that reflects your connection, such as, I know the right person will be arriving in divine order at precisely the perfect time. You are love. You emanated from pure love.
You're connected to this source of love at all times. Think this way, feel this way, and you'll soon act this way. And all that you think, feel, and do will be reciprocated in exactly the same fashion. Believe it or not, this principle of the right person showing up has been in place forever. It's only your ego that keeps you from seeing it clearly. A few words here about patience. There's a wonderfully paradoxical line in A Course in Miracles. It says, infinite patience produces immediate results. To be infinitely patient means to have an absolute knowing within you that you're in vibrational harmony with the all-creating force that intended you here. You are, in fact, a co-creator of your life. You know that the right people will show up on divinely ordained schedule. Attempting to rush the schedule based on your own timetable is akin to getting down on your knees and tugging at an emerging tulip shoot, insisting that you need the flower now. Creation reveals its secrets by and by, not according to your agenda. The immediate results that you'll receive from your infinite patience is a deep sense of peace. You'll feel the love of the creation process, you'll stop making incessant demands, and you'll start being on the lookout for exactly the right person.
In the teachings of Buddha, there was a quote that I really loved. I didn't put it as a display quote, but it's really very powerful. And that quote from Buddha is, the only effort of any intelligent person in this world ought to be to know something which cannot be destroyed by death. The only effort of any intelligent person in this world ought to be to know something, not to believe in something, to know something which cannot be destroyed by death. And I wonder if you know something. Know means trust. If you trust in something without any doubt that cannot be destroyed by death, certainly it's not your body or any of your possessions, all of which will become dust. Everything on the planet, including you, to put it in Ken Wilber's terms, is tomorrow's food. It's a constant recycling in the physical plane. So what part of you cannot be destroyed by death? What part of you is real, if you will, as Lao Tzu put it? But I knew there was something in the New Testament that really had struck me. So the first is from John 10, verse 34. It says, "Is it not written in your law, I have said, you are gods?" From Jesus Christ. "Is it not written in your law, I have said, you are gods?" Which is really what you have to understand and embrace and know if you're going to become a manifester. You have to know what you are being told here by a great spiritual teacher. You are gods. And the second one was John 14, verse 20, that says, "On that day you will know," see how that word know is always there. You won't believe, you will know. "On that day you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you." So, what is being talked about here? What is being talked about is not something that is physical. This is not like my arm is in your arm, my spleen is in you. What we're talking about here is something that is beyond the physical, that is in you, and in the Father, and in me, and in everything. And if you get this, if you know this, then you begin to see yourself as connected to this divine intelligence that is everywhere, that is always flowing, that is inexhaustible, that is non-judgmental, that is available for you to plug into, just like electricity. And you can do anything you want with it, like electricity. It'll light up a hospital where everybody is reputed to be ill, and it'll light up a house of ill repute. You can do what you want with it. It is there. It is divine. And you are a piece of it. You are connected to it. And once you trust in this, and once you know this, you almost come to a different perspective in your life. Earlier in the first principle I had talked about these archetypes. that Carl Jung referred to. And in these archetypes, he said that we move from athletes to warriors to statesmen to spirit, and then when we are there, we can be all of these things. And one of the things that he also said is that if you don't get to this highest place, this highest archetype, then you will continue to come back and do it. Now, he's talking about reincarnation, and I'm not going to talk about reincarnation here. The way I see it is I think of God as like the ocean for me. To understand this idea of learning to trust, God is like the ocean, and I am a glass. And I take this glass, and I dip it into the ocean. And I say, okay, what do I have here? And the answer is, I have a glass of God. Now, it's not as big, it's not as strong, it's not as all-knowing, it's not as all-powerful, but it is still God. And just like a wave on the ocean is what the ocean is doing, you are what God is doing. And until you know this, you will never have the trust I'm talking about. You are what God is doing. And if you take a drop of water out of that ocean and you separate it out and you put it over here, you will find that it is weak, that it will collapse, that it has no power, that it can't do anything, because it is separated from its source. And the same is true of us. When we separate ourselves from our source, from the divinity that is in all things, we take and make ourselves powerless, impotent, unable to do the divine things that we can do when we are united. Both as united with God, or with soul, or spirit, whatever you want to call it, united with each other. You see, it's that separation. It's always that separation. So it's almost like learning to trust in yourself involves trusting in the fact that you have a divinity. And this divinity is evident on the basis of the idea that God is everywhere. And if this intelligence is everywhere, you have to trust that it's in you. And there's no mistakes here. And while you may not always honor everything that you do and that others do, you can see that your essence, your basic essence of what it is that created you in the first place is that divine organizing intelligence that can never die. You've got to know that. You've got to trust in that.
Here are some exercises to initiate becoming and being peaceful. Want the peace you desire for yourself even more for others. Practice giving away peace wherever you go by imagining that only thoughts of peace are in the container within you. Offer these energies wherever possible. Become a peacemaker with your fellow workers, your family members, and especially those with whom you're in a love relationship. Leave your ego outside where it can't extinguish your candle flame. Then offer someone with whom you usually argue and make wrong a new thought from the light. You're making a good point there. I think I'll think about that. Or thanks for giving me your opinion. I value what you have to say. These statements may at first shock the recipient, but you know that you're practicing becoming a being of peace by giving away what you want. And then ask. Use the words of St. Francis to ask to become peace. Make me an instrument of thy peace. The act of asking, even if you don't feel an answer right away, will alter the balance toward becoming the peace that you desire. Once you've asked, you'll find that it is given more readily than you may have suspected. This is a process of suspending your ego and allowing the higher, more spiritually based energies to weigh in toward your becoming more balanced. Slow down. Take your time. Your work isn't terribly important. Your worldly duties aren't terribly important. Make your first and primary priority in your life being in balance with the source of creation. Become thoughtful in your slowed down time and invite the divine to be known in your life. Being the peace you desire means becoming a more relaxed person whose balance point doesn't attract anxiety and stress symptoms. Make deliberate, conscious efforts to slow yourself down by relaxing your mind. Take a little more time to enjoy your life here on this planet. Be more contemplative by noticing the stars, the clouds, the rivers, the animals, the rainstorms, and all of the natural world. And then, extend the same slowed-down, loving energy to all people. Begin with your family. Take a few extra hours to romp with your children, to listen to their ideas, to read them a story. Go for a walk with your most cherished loved one and say how much you treasure him or her in your life. Extend this slowed-down perspective outward at work, in your community, and even to strangers. Make a deliberate effort to give someone your place in line rather than hurrying to be first. Become conscious of your efforts to become the peace you desire and to live in balance, even while you're driving. As you slow your thoughts down and decide to enjoy your life more, bring your car to a stop at a yellow caution light rather than speeding on through. Consciously drive at a relaxed pace rather than in a frenzy to get somewhere 2 minutes sooner. Let other people into the stream of traffic by being courteous rather than right. These are all ways to begin the process of realignment. Become conscious of your desire to be at peace, and then match your present moment thoughts to that desire. You'll become more compassionate without trying to be, simply because you've aligned your inner world with your desire to be in balance. You'll find that your body will feel more in balance as you pursue this glorious quest, as it will experience fewer symptoms of stress. Your body weight will adjust to the optimal level as you return to a state of perfect equilibrium. Your skin will reflect the balance and peace that you're becoming. Your digestion will return to normal without the aid of pills. Your sleep patterns will adjust. Your bowels will function perfectly as they were designed to. In short, you will be in perfect balance. You will not only be in balance, but irony of ironies, you'll become more productive. You'll have more abundance flowing in your life while being peaceful for the first time since you were a child. Take the advice of my teacher, Nisargadatta Maharaj. Just be. Give it a try, and I promise you'll be peacefully surprised. Here are 3 suggestions for implementing the ideas of this chapter. 1. Set aside multiple times during your day to stop and ask yourself this key question. Right now, in what I am about to say or do my desires stem from my lower or my higher self? The ego is all about self-serving, ownership, winning, judging, and so on. The higher self is about serving, loving, and being in a non-judgmental state of peace. Ask yourself this question and create the opportunity to align yourself more fully with God. You then have access to the same powers of manifestation as your source of being. This question, when honestly explored, helps you align with the power to fulfill your wishes and desires. You don't need to abolish your ego animal nature. You do need to keep it tamed, but it isn't allowed to overshadow or destroy your spirit. Give your divine nature a chance by asking yourself this question. Right now, in what I am about to say or do my desires stem from my lower or my higher self? A very important question. Second suggestion. Spend some of your quiet meditation time visualizing a tiny spark of awareness glowing within your being. Practice seeing this God portion of yourself expanding its glow within your mind. See it growing into a personally satisfying size. Continue this expansion exercise, sensing the spark and glow as your God essence. You will begin acting from this inner God-realized image. And the third suggestion, use these affirmations frequently. I am all-knowing. I am all-powerful. I am unlimited. This helps you banish doubt and refer to this portion of yourself that lives in a spiritual world of no restrictions. Simply affirm to yourself without explaining to others or demonstrating pride in what you're doing. You are ridding yourself of ego-dominated mental messages that continue to want to convince you that you are primarily your body and its 5 senses. And here is a display quote from the book of Philippians, Philippians 2, verses 5 and 6. Quote, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who, being in the form of God, did not consider it robbery to be equal with God." teaching throughout all time. When you are this God, your essence of pure love, it is all you have to give away. And when you realign yourself in this vein, once again quoting Jesus the Christ, quote, "With men, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible." Now, all things are possible leaves out nothing, including your ability to fulfill any and all wishes that are aligned with God. You may find it difficult at first to be able to assert to yourself that I am God. But when you put it into the context of God as love, and pure love allows you to be almighty, all-knowing, and God-realized, you will, I assure you, begin to regain the omnipotence that is your essence from the moment of your transition from non-being or spirit to being, that is human. In the Vedanta, the ancient pre-Christian teachings, we are reminded that we are not a part of, but identical with, that absolute spirit of the world. This is your highest self. It's indeed a towering assumption, but one, if used in context and alignment with the creative source of all, that is the key to mastering the ability to live a life of your own wishes being fulfilled. After all, with God as you, and you as God, all things are possible.
First and foremost, enjoy the mystery. Let the world unfold without always attempting to figure it all out. Let relationships just be. For example, since everything is going to stretch out in divine order, don't try so hard to make something work. Simply allow. Don't always toil at trying to understand your mate, or your children, or your parents, or your boss, or anyone else, because the Tao is working at all times. When expectations are shattered, practice allowing that to be the way it is. Relax. Let go. Allow. And recognize that some of your desires are about how you think your world should be, rather than how it is at that moment. Become an astute observer. Judge less and listen more. Take time to open your mind to the fascinating mystery and uncertainty that we all experience. And then, practice letting go of always naming and labeling. The labeling process is what most of us were taught in school. We studied hard to be able to define things correctly in order to get what we called high grades. Most educational institutions insisted on identifying everything, leading to a tag that distinguished us graduates with knowledge of specific categories. Yet we know, without anyone telling us, that there's no title or degree or distinguishing label that truly defines us. In the same way that water is not the word water any more than it is agua, Wasser, or H2O. Nothing in this universe is what it's named. In spite of our endless categorizations, each animal, flower, mineral, and human can never truly be described. In the same way, the Tao tells us that the name that can be named is not the eternal name. We must bask in the magnificence of what is seen and sensed, instead of always memorizing and categorizing. Do the Tao now. At some point today, notice an instant of annoyance or irritation you have with another person or situation. Decide to do the Tao, or practice the way, in that moment by turning inward with curiosity about where you are on the continuum between desire and allowing. Permit the paradox of wanting the irritant to vanish and allowing it to be what it is. Look inward for it in your thoughts and allow yourself to feel it wherever it is and however it moves in your body. Turn all of your attention to becoming open-minded, allowing permissiveness to befriend the mystery within yourself. Notice how the feeling manifests itself, perhaps doing loop-de-loops in your stomach, giving a rigidness to your skeleton, making your heart pound, or tightening your throat. Wherever it is, allow it as an enigmatic messenger within you, and give it non-judgmental attention. Notice the desire for the feeling to disappear, and allow it to be monitored compassionately by you. Accept whatever comes. Encounter the mystery within without labeling, explaining, or defending. It's a subtle distinction at first, which you must take personal responsibility for identifying. You alone can prepare the ground of your being for the experience of living the mystery.
The first pathway is called discipline. All right, so this is like you have to train the body. All right? So you have to go to practice.
Yes.
Right? The second, now we're not talking about education here, we're talking about mastery. The second pathway is called wisdom.
and that is the application of the mind to what you've trained yourself to do. So if you're going out to learn how to shoot a basket, or to hit a tennis ball, or to make a lemon meringue pie, or dance the Macarena, or anything, the first thing you do is you train your body, you get it in shape, and the second thing you do is you apply wisdom, the mind, to it. Right? Now, this is what we mean by education. So that if we send our children off to school, we say to them, get some discipline and use your head. And basically, you've got an education. Yes. But that's not mastery. The top two levels of mastery include, the third one's called unconditional love. I watched Pavarotti sing at one of the three tenors, Civil Witches concert. 42,000 of us at a football stadium in Florida. Yeah. And they had a screen on him, Michael, that was 30 feet high. That's 3 stories high, and they showed a close-up of him. Now, this is a man, how many times has he sang O Sole Mio in Italian, all right? There's nobody in the stadium understands Italian, but it doesn't matter. They show a close-up on his face on this 30-foot screen, and he is in bliss. He's just in bliss. And I said to my wife, who was sitting next to me, I said, honey, this guy has obviously gone to practice. I mean, you've got to practice to be the best in the world. And he's also, obviously, he's got great wisdom. He has studied. But that's not what makes him the greatest tenor in the world. I said, look at the love. Oh, solo me. I mean, he was just, every fiber of him was involved in this. He was he was in love with what he was doing. And he wasn't selling us the song, he was selling us the love. Yes. That's the third pathway. But the highest pathway, what we really call mastery, is what we call surrender, which is when you get to that place where you realize that this is not you who's doing any of this, that you're not this body, this is not your home, this is not you that's doing it. There's something that you're connecting to called spirit, or consciousness, or higher awareness, and you're allowing God, I guess, if you will, to flow through you and send that out into the world. That's what the highest of them are. I mean, Michael Jordan says, I don't know how I do that. I just surrender. Yes. That whole idea of being able to get your ego out of the way. I was just asked the question in South Africa, but they were interviewing me, one of the newspapers there, and the woman hit me with this question. She said, what's been the greatest accomplishment of your life? And my ego started really going into, high gear. And I was thinking about, how many books I'd written, how many times I'd appeared on the Tonight Show, or, where I was on bestseller lists and all of this. I would I wasn't saying a word. I was just sort of rattling all of these things off that my ego wanted to say. And then finally it hit me, and I said to the woman, I think the greatest accomplishment of my life has been my ability to tame my ego, and to no longer see myself as what I have and what I do and what other people think of me. I'm not my possessions. I'm not my accomplishments. I'm not my reputation. I've been able to see myself as a spiritual being, if you will, having that human experience. And that is involved with letting go. As they say in that recovery movement, you let go and you let God. And that may sound trite, but it's really one of the great secrets to being able to attract and manifest into your life. One of the people that I selected in Wisdom of the Ages or selected me, was this man who we don't even know when he was born or when he lived. His name was Patanjali. I'm sure you're familiar with Patanjali. The original Yoga Sutras. Yes. And his book, How to Know God. Yes. And
wonderful translation by Swami Prabhupada and Christopher Isherwood.
Yes, I have that.
Yeah, it's a great translation of that. Yes.
It's just, every page. I've never read a book that I have. When I read it, I read a page or two, and I set it down, and I can't wait to get back to it. But I don't want to read it because I'm afraid it's going to end. Okay, that's how I feel about that book. Right. Because there's so much masterful kinds of experiences and aphorisms in there that we can apply, and really, really reach these miraculous levels. Anyway, one of the passages that I used from Patanjali was about this concept called inspiration, which is really what we're talking about here, because the word inspiration, of course, comes from in spirit. And the word information comes from inform. So this is the age of information, and there's no shortage of information on this planet. With a computer chip that can put the name and address of everybody in the United States on it, and it's the size of your thumbnail. We've got plenty of information. Yes. But what we have is a spiritual deficit, a deficit of spirit. So Patanjali talked about becoming inspired as a source of, and this is what he said. He said, when you are inspired, by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all of your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction, and you find yourself in a new and a great and a wonderful world. And then he had this alarming thing to say. I laminated this and carried it with me. He said, dormant forces, faculties, and talents come alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. And all you have to do is become inspired, that is, move into the world of spirit. And once we do that, once we leave the form, once we leave the ego, once we leave the idea that I am what I have and what I do and my reputation, what others think of me, and begin to see ourselves as the beloved, as connected to rather than separate from God, and allow that higher spiritual awareness to flow into our lives. I think that's what we mean when we say surrender, when we say let go. I know when I'm writing, if I let go, my writing is blissful and easy. When I struggle with it and I try to think about the right word and so on, I get stuck. Same in an interview, or the same in when I'm speaking on stage, or whatever. When I let go, it's the old aphorism: when the student is ready,
yes,
the teachers appear.
You want the truth of who you believe you are to mesh with what you're projecting outward. If this is unsuccessful, you're aware of it, even if you opt to ignore it. The imbalance surfaces in your daily interactions, showing up in feelings of being upset, out of sorts, confused, and often misunderstood. My intentions are good, so why is it that no one else sees it this way? And I try to be a good employee, a good father, a good citizen, and a good husband, but I always seem to be misconstrued or misjudged. This results in a continual state of frustration and even anger. You need to make a decision to realign yourself on an energetic basis to get the scales balanced between your idealized self and your realized self, as perceived by the majority of people in your life. Restoring the balance through realignment. When you balance the way you want to be with the way you're being received, there's a distinctly pleasurable feeling of being in harmony with life. It's not that you're seeking approval or groveling for respect or love. It's more that you're in the world in a way that's congruent with your inner desires to be the kind of person you are. You accomplish this by first noticing when you're feeling misperceived, then determining if your words and actions match the truth of your inner thoughts. This alignment check will eventually and almost automatically give you a reading that compares what you're projecting outwardly with what you're inwardly wanting to express. Let's take a look at some of these indices. This alignment check calls for self-honesty along with a willingness to experience radical humility in the process. 1. I am a loving human being. If you both desire and believe this to be true about yourself, then you're 2/3 of the way toward being in balance on this principle. Your desire to be a loving person, and at the same time, your truth that you are a loving person, leaves only the third element, how others perceive you. Here are some ways of being that are counterproductive to being perceived as a loving human being and create an imbalance. Having a strong position of hatred toward anyone or any group of people, you're out of balance. Violence in any form, including aggressive verbal outbursts, you're out of balance. Support for weapons designed to produce megadeath explosions, you're out of balance. You enjoy being entertained by films portraying hatred and killing, you're out of balance. Verbally belittling others' beliefs and insisting that your beliefs are superior, you're out of balance. Let your thoughts of love become the driving force behind your unloving behaviors. This is true alignment. Begin looking at the world as a vast mirror reflecting back to you exactly what you are. If you truly are a loving human being, the world will look like a loving place to you, and this will be how you'll be perceived. You will have restored balance, and consequently, there will be no discrepancy between how you see yourself and what the world is reflecting back to you. If the world continues to look like an unloving and unlivable place, I urge you to keep examining the kind of energy that you're projecting outward. 2. I am a kind human being. You cannot be kind to me and unkind to your waiter and be in balance. When you persistently extend arrogance outward in the direction of other people, even if you feel justified in your actions, that's how you're perceived and defined. You need to know that you're not coming across as a balanced, kind person.
You may indeed exemplify kindness in how you treat your children and your grandmother, and even all of the children and all of the grandmothers of the world. But if you honk your horn in a red-faced anger at a slow-driving grandmother who's taking her grandchildren to school, then you're way, way, way out of balance. If you see yourself as desirous of being a kind person, then consciously spend time daily aligning your thoughts with your desire. The universe will cooperate, bringing you more and more of that same kindness. 3. I am a joyful, happy human being. In this category, your feelings are the measurement you need to pay attention to. In fact, they require your undivided attention. Do you feel happy and content, or are you easily outraged over the misconduct of others? Does your joy turn quickly to despair when you read the newspapers or listen to the news? Do people around you really think that you're a happy camper in your daily life? Do you regularly hear others telling you to lighten up or chill out and stop letting yourself get so worked up? These are clues indicating the balance or imbalance between how you see yourself and what you project to others. The alignment check for this principle involves noticing your feelings and your ability to sustain them, along with feedback from people you trust. And 4. I am a non-judgmental human being. If you're truly non-judgmental, then it will be impossible for you to categorize or generalize individuals into groups such as old, Southern, uneducated, teeny boppers, belonging to red or blue states, conservatives, liberals, and so on. A stereotype is a judgment. You cannot be non-judgmental and be critical of the different ways people talk or eat or dress, socialize, dance, or anything else. If you believe that you're non-judgmental but admit that you have a tendency to generalize and criticize, then you're out of balance. You're due for a realignment so that your current thoughts and ultimately your behaviors will become a vibrational match to your inner self-portrait. Make a conscious decision to look for what is right and pleasing in others. Create a new habit of complimenting those around you. Decide that you're going to disregard stereotypes and refuse to engage in conversations that dwell on judging anyone. Turn judgments into blessings to restore the imbalance between how you want to be and how you're actually presenting yourself to the world. Rebalance this energy by sending a silent blessing to the person. On the non-judgmental side of the balance scale, think about how much love and support this person could use. I guarantee that you'll feel the difference internally and at the same time feel more compassionately connected to that individual. The energy of non-judgment is totally balanced as opposed to the energy of contempt, pity, or some other negative option. Become aware of all of your behaviors and feelings. Then attempt to determine if they match your vision of yourself and if that self-image is what others see. You'll immediately feel discord when you discover imbalance, and that's when you can choose to change habits to match your desires and restore equilibrium to your life.
That our words are really decrees of what it is that we want to attract and what we want to create in our life. And I find myself in doing this show for 10 years, watching how people talk and respond when they'll say something like, well, that's very difficult, And I almost always stop them and say, let's look at that word, difficult, because that becomes a decree. It's like, if you say something is going to be difficult, and then in life you're offered an option of doing something that is difficult or doing something that is easy, you're going to pick the easy choice. And for example, people will often say I'll tell them about quitting smoking, about how I quit smoking, and I made a decision to do it, when I was a very young man back in my early 20s. And they'll say, yeah, but that's very difficult, and it's very difficult to overcome addictions. And I've overcome several addictions in my life that I didn't start out believing that it was going to be difficult, because if you do, then the first time that you're tempted to go back to having a cigarette or having that drink or taking that drug or whatever, the first thing that you say to yourself is, well, I can do something that's very difficult, which is to pass by it and have to live with the consequences of wanting it and desiring it. Or I can tell myself that this is really quite easy. All I have to do is not put a cigarette in my mouth. So, as I was reading this, she makes this comment in this chapter on Power Through Metaphysics. She says, I suggest that you spend a day just listening to yourself. Listen to the decrees that you make so casually. Things that people say, and here are some of them that I wrote down and that she had written down as well. Business is rotten. So
that becomes like a decree. I've heard people say that. I have a dear friend who runs a golf driving range place, and I've heard him say so many times, business is terrible, business is terrible. When you start believing that it's the economy or that it's business, you're setting out a decree. It's literally a decree. And another is that kids today are a lost generation. So we look at the young people and we think, and we make this kind of a decree. And then every time we see a young kid doing anything, we sort of have this that we live up to. We'll never get there in this traffic. You can't trust anyone these days. It's not safe to walk in the streets. Don't touch that or you'll break it. With my luck, I'll probably, things won't work out. I've often heard people say this over and over again. Well, it's just not going to work out because with my luck, and instead of saying with my luck things are going to work out and I anticipate things are going to be great, that becomes a decree. Instead, we have these decrees about all the things that can't happen. I've never seen it fail. If I eat this, it's going to upset my stomach. I can feel a migraine coming on. They're going to rob you blind. She's a gossip. There's no point in trying, and on and on. And it's like when we think about just casually the words that come out of our mouth, and then she goes on to say, you can see the pattern. You've made the prophecies, and your attitudes govern your actions to the point where you make sure that those prophecies are fulfilled. It says, never forget, every word that you utter is a decree, whether positive or negative. When it is positive, it is manifested in good. When it's negative, only bad can follow. If your words are against someone, it's the same as condemning yourself. That person lives up or down to your expectations, at least where you are concerned. But when you speak with kindness and understanding toward others, they will return kindness and understanding to you. And when something unpleasant happens to you, don't think, I wasn't expecting that. Think instead of statements that you've made in the past that predicted and literally caused your misfortune. And this is the thing, that's what I underlined and wanted to say this morning. When something unpleasant happens to you, don't think, I wasn't really expecting that. Instead, begin to look at all of the statements that you've made in the past that have predicted and literally caused this misfortune, whatever it is that's taking place in your life. It could have been one of those idle statements like the ones that I just mentioned to you. Like every time I make an investment, I lose my shirt, or I have bad luck, or I think with my luck things aren't going to work out, and so on. And so what I want, what I'm doing for myself as well is looking at, I think we can take this, Diane, to a level that isn't just about, these sort of minor things that I'm talking about. I think we can do this with the diseases that show up in our life, with the difficulty in relationships that show up in our life, with the absence of of abundance or prosperity or funding or money that show up in our life. If we were to take and just look at all of the things that exist in our present life and ask ourselves, how many times have I uttered statements or words or had ideas that I have proclaimed and decreed, and then they've showed up in my life.
So this business about forgiveness, now, I want to tell you that whatever you got going for you in your life in the way of animosity or bitterness or anguish or pain or whatever, towards any other human being on our planet, whoever they are and what they've done, that the toxic reaction to that bitterness, it will never let go of you. That forgiveness is like the greatest motivator, if you will, in the world. Towards anyone or anything, hanging on to anything painful or hurtful and so on, I personally believe you've got to let go of. Not only do you have to let go of it, you don't have to make any phone calls. You don't have to let anybody else know that you're doing it. In your heart, you have to purify yourself in such a way that you just simply say, love is forgiving. And that's 2 words, and it's 1 word. When it's 1 word, it's love is forgiving. All right? And that's what it is. You must forgive. And it's also forgiving, so you don't ask anything back of it. After I did that, my whole life became so clear and so focused, and where I was going became so evident, and I left there and I outlined my book the following week. And let me tell you that I have never had a dream about my father since. I have never had a moment's anguish
of any kind toward him or anything that he has done. In fact, I am completely at peace with him, and I send him love wherever he is. Whatever is going on in who he is and where he is and what it is, it's all fine. It's all okay. In fact, without those experiences that were the result of some of the things that he had done, my opportunity to help so many people and to create wonderful things for others, including myself, would never ever have materialized without that. And I see that, and I see the need for that, and I believe in it. And I also want to say to you, whatever you got inside of you is not the result of what anybody else puts there. It's the result of what you decide to have inside of you. Think for a minute about an orange. And when I've given this analogy many times, you take an orange and you squeeze it as hard as you can squeeze it, just, all right? And what comes out? These are easy questions, folks. Honest, don't look puzzled. Everybody passes, all right? Nobody fails tonight. What comes out is orange juice. But the question is, why, when you squeeze an orange real hard, does orange juice come out? And the answer to that is, because that's what's inside. These are really easy. They get easier. All right? Now, does it matter who squeezes? Does it matter what instrument you use? Does it matter what time of the day you do it? Does it matter how you do it? When you do it? No. When you squeeze an orange, what comes out of an orange is what's inside. When you squeeze a person and put pressure on a person of any kind, and anger and hatred and stress and tension and depression come out, it isn't because of who is doing the squeezing or when they do it or how they choose to do it. It's because that's what's inside. And if you don't have it inside, it can never come out, no matter who you're living with. No matter how tough it may seem to you. And when somebody cuts you off on the freeway, and you're mad as hell and going to get even with them, and you're going to get up in front of them and slow down and make them see what it's like, it isn't because they cut you off that you're so upset. It's because that's what you carry around inside. And when you stop carrying that around inside, nothing that anybody does can upset you. No one can make a fool of you without your consent. Eleanor Roosevelt. No one can depress you. No one can make you anxious. No one can hurt your feelings. No one can make you anything other than what you allow inside. You see, my evolution has brought me to the point of understanding that each human being on our planet must take total responsibility for his own inner development, for his own inner development. And our inner development is something that we ignore a lot as we progress through this whole ladder of life. And I think of a metaphor. The metaphor is like a candle, and the candle flame that is burning inside of you. All right? Now this candle flame, if you take a candle and walk out of here this evening and you see raindrops falling, it'll blow out your candle, and the wind will blow out your candle. There's all kinds of things that are going to happen outside of you that you have absolutely no control over to blow out your candles. Your candles are getting blown out all the time. We have an inner candle flame that must never flicker, though the worst goes before us. And that's perhaps the highest place we can get to in our lives, is to understand that what our own inner development, symbolized by that candle flame, must never change, must never even flicker. It is our responsibility, not only for ourselves, but for our children as well, to raise them to believe that whatever is going on inside of you is entirely up to you. You own it. It is yours.